Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down a huge idea that shifts the focus from just using AI to actually building with it. And trust me, this isn't about another productivity tip, it's a whole new way of thinking about your value in a world that's run by AI.
Okay, let's kick things off with an idea that might just flip what you think you know about AI on its head. It says the most expensive person in the future isn't the one who writes prompts. Now, that goes against a lot of what we're hearing, right? It suggests that the real value isn't just in talking to an AI, but in setting up a whole system of AIs.
But the one who builds the operating system. And that right there is the whole game. We're moving from being the person using the machine to the person who designs the entire factory. That's the big shift we're diving into today. So, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the AI chaos that's happening in so many companies. Then, we'll get into the 3 skills you absolutely need to thrive. After that, we'll explore how to turn that mess into something that actually works. And finally, we'll map out what this means for your career path.
So let's jump right into the big challenge with AI right now. Everyone's rushing to get their hands on all these new AI tools. But you know what? Instead of finding some magic solution, a lot of companies are just creating, well, a brand new kind of chaos.
For a lot of folks, this is what AI adoption really looks like. You've got data all over the place, a bunch of powerful tools that don't talk to each other, and just messy processes. You know, your sales team is using one AI, the marketing team is using another, and nothing connects. It just creates more work and you never get the full power of the tech. And this slide really nails the shift we have to make. On the left, it's like having a bunch of different puzzle pieces. They're useful on their own, I guess, but the goal is to get to the right side, a fully assembled puzzle. An interconnected system where everything works together. It's the difference between having a simple toolbox and having a fully automated assembly line.
Okay, so how do you make that jump? How do you become indispensable in this new world? Well, it all comes down to building 3 key abilities. Seriously, think of these as the skills you need to build a protective moat around your career, making you super valuable and really hard to replace.
And here they are. First up, business abstraction. Sounds complicated, but it's really about looking at a messy process, like getting a new customer set up, and breaking it down into logical steps a computer can actually run. Second is systems engineering. That's seeing the big picture, how that customer setup process connects to everything else, from sales to support to your AI tools. And third, OS construction, which is exactly what it sounds like, actually building the system that puts it all together. All right, let's really dig into that first skill. Business abstraction, because it's the foundation for everything else. This is where we figure out how to take a chaotic business process and turn it into a system that makes sense. And the key tool for this is something called a computation graph.
Now, this is a really important difference. We've all seen flowcharts, right? They're just static pictures that describe a process. But a computation graph, that's a whole different beast. It's dynamic. It doesn't just show you the process. It is the process. It's a living, breathing blueprint that can actually be executed.
And this is where the magic happens. By defining these 4 parts, you turn something vague into something totally concrete. Think about it like a recipe. The node is the name of the dish. The inputs are your ingredients. The outputs are, the delicious meal you made. And the operators are the actual cooking instructions. When you define your work this way, it becomes something you can reuse and automate. It's like turning your business operations into code.
Okay, so once you have these powerful building blocks, these computation graphs, what's next? Well, you start putting them together. This is how you actually build a real enterprise operating system that can run your teams or even your whole company's workflows.
And this breaks it down into 3 layers. Think of it like a stack. At the bottom, you have the core. This handles all the basics, like who can do what and tracking the really important numbers. Then in the middle, you have the workflows layer. That's the engine room where your computation graphs and AI agents are actually doing the work. And then on top, you've got governance. That's like quality control, watching how everything's running and feeding that info back into the system so it gets smarter and better over time. All right, let's tie this all together. What does learning all this stuff actually mean for you and your future? It's a huge shift. It's about going from being a manager of people and projects to becoming an architect of intelligent systems. So where do you even begin? It's actually pretty simple. I want you to think for a second. What is the single most painful, most chaotic process on your team right now? You know the one everyone complains about, the one that always seems to break. That's your starting point. Because that chaotic mess, it's not a liability. It's an opportunity. When you start to apply this way of thinking, that process becomes the raw material for your very first building block. You're turning a problem into a real asset, the first piece of your team's brand new operating system. Look, at the end of the day, this is so much bigger than just learning a new skill. It's about taking on a completely new identity. The people who will win in the future are the ones who can see the whole system, figure out how it works, and then build a smarter way for it to operate. This is how you become a true systems-level thinker in the age of AI.